Okay, we're okay. I'm going to just move this toolbar so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to fill in that area that I just selected, that path, in a new layer. Then I'm going to create a new layer and select this end of the roll and do the same thing with the same color and fill it. So now I have layer 1. I'm going to call it paper. And layer 2, I'll call it roll, that is. And layer 3, I will, I selected, I clicked it to, I'm going to just click so I can change the name here. And I'll call that end the roll. Okay, so now what I want to do is to go in and click on this end, and I'm going to fill it also. I have to create another layer for the end, and I'll fill it also with the work path and fill it with gray. So now I have a piece for the hole. Now what I'm going to do is use the dodge tool and make sure I'm in mid-range, a burn tool I should say. Make sure I'm in mid-range and get a reasonable size brush with a soft uh, edge to it so it won't be really hard. And then I'm going to just, while I'm selected on the paper range, that is, it will mask out everything else that's not on the paper layer, I will make a dark path using the burn tool and get myself kind of a shadow. So now with the shadow here, I'm going to use the dodge tool and I will do a couple of swipes. I may use the shift tool to make sure I'm doing a straight line across, and I'll get a little bit of a highlight here. Now, also I'm going to be I'm going to go now to my filters, and I'll go to texture and texturize, and I will use the scaling of about 50 and relief of somewhere around 3 in order to get this kind of texture that looks sort of like a paper towel, the roughness of a paper towel. So I'll get in close so you can kind of see it. And so yeah, about 3 or 4 will do. So you see that gives you a nice, and I'm making sure that the light is coming from the top. So those textures will look like they're being lit from the top. Okay, so now what I'll do is go in and click on the roll, and excuse me, I'm going to go back to my dodge tool, and first I will use my shift key and go right across the middle of it. I'm selecting on the roll layer. Now I'm going to use the burn tool, and I'll get a little bit smaller brush and run it across the bottom here and get a little bit of a shadow, and likewise that with the top and the bottom again. And so that kind of gives you I'm going to go back in and do that dodge tool, make sure that highlight is good and strong right at the middle there. Okay. And here I'm going to go down to texture again and texturize while I'm on my roll layer. And this time I'll use the same sandstone texture, but I'm going to take this up just a little bit in roughness because this is the front side of the of the roll, and it should have a little more roughness than that back side. So I want to go up now to the last piece that I put in, which is the hole, and I'm going to use the burn tool again, and while I'm selected on the whole region, I'm going to make that brush a little smaller. I'm going to run across this again a little bit and create a little bit of shadow. I think I'm going to take my my exposure up a little bit and make it a little darker, so up almost toward 50%, and I'll go across a few times, and then a few times at the bottom, just a little bit lighter, more dark toward the top, and that gives you the illusion of light coming from the top. So while I'm still in the whole roll layer, I'm going to double click inside of the layer and go to my layer styles, and I'm going to use my stroke, and I'll change the stroke color to a lighter gray, and I'll turn it down the opacity some, and so it has kind of a feeling of a roll tube that's inside of the roll of tissue. Okay, you can keep seeing my recording window come up. Don't pay any attention to that. Now I'm going to go to the end, and I'll duplicate the end. That's that piece on the end, and I'm going to, in that duplicated layer, I'm going to make a box, and I'll fill that box with the gray, but in this case just about the same gray, so I went back to change the color. I'm going to use the foreground color and fill it. Now while I still have that layer selected, I'm going to go into filter and down to up to noise and add noise, and I'm going to use a monochromatic noise and take it up, 250 to 300 or so. Want a lot of noise there, and with that noise selected, I'm going to go to filter and then to blur, and in blur I'm going to go to the radial blur, and in radial blur I will use the spin, and I'll take it up to 60, 70-ish, so I get some good strong lines. And now I can see in my layer that I have these pieces. Now they need to be a little bit darker. These spin pieces that look sort of like rolls of paper. So I'm going to take it to layers, and I'm going to bring these contrast up a little bit by bringing in the lightness and darkness to a little closer within the range, and that will increase the contrast. And that's okay. You can play around with it a little bit more as you would like to. And while I'm still holding that layer, I'm going to go in and clip these by holding the Alt key in between the layer and the end roll, and that will clip that square inside of the roll path. And then I can choose inside of it using my move tool and kind of move the piece around until I get it centered as I like to. Then I can go to transform and just do free transform, so I can move all sides. And I'll go in and move these pieces one way or the other. I'm trying to move the center over a little bit. Pull this up a little bit, one at the bottom down a little bit, until I kind of get it to look like the paper is sitting on that roll. So if I squeeze it a little bit more there, so now it has the appearance of the paper kind of going. I pushed that in a little too much, and I'll pull this side in a little bit more. And that's beginning to get to be a little bit more like it. You can play around with this. I probably shouldn't grab the center because that's going to move the center of rotation. So don't do that. But you can move this around as you need to just get the piece centered as you would like to, so that it looks like the roll is going around. So that's pretty much it. And I'll click off of this, and you have your roll of paper.